Okay, so I know this review was supposed to be up a couple of days ago, but bear with me, people. This is going to be the Night of Champions review and the Raw review linked in one video. It's going to be long as hell, probably. I don't even know. Just starting it, so if it is, sorry, just bear with me. First, I'm going to start off with Night of Champions, then we'll get on to Raw. So first off with Night of Champions. Yes. WWE, why? Okay, why? Why would you open the show with a Triple H promo? This seemed like a Raw segment. Okay, if you wanted to announce that the match was going to be no outside interference, you could have did that on Raw or SmackDown or some other time prior to the pay-per-view, not just waste airtime at the pay-per-view. And this was a huge waste of time in consideration of the fact that most of the matches in the card were cut short. You know, so this is something that they could have did without, especially with what they did on Raw the following Monday after the pay-per-view. I mean, come on, they could have avoided this whole segment and just had a completely different outcome at the end of the night. But it's WWE for you. It was stupid. I don't know why they bothered, but we're going to move on to the next segment. So, you have the Intercontinental Championship title around this guy, Curtis Axel. And he has a match at the pay-per-view against Kofi Kingston for the title, but it wasn't announced. It was a title match, but it was random. I mean, really, WWE, it's been like a year and a half since I basically seen your product and you're still doing this crap. It's the same old shit. Give me a break. Now, I understand, okay, Curtis Axel, he's, got a match later on. They booked all this stuff. They can't book him in two things because WWE's too lazy. Okay, fine. Why didn't you wait on the whole Punk thing with Heyman and had him in the storyline going in and out of Champions to defend the goddamn belt? That's all I'm saying. The match itself was short. It wasn't really anything fantastic, but it wasn't horrible. It was watchable. I wish it would have went a little bit longer, but of course, with as long as that first segment was, you knew that they were having to cut time somewhere, and this is just one of the matches where they did it. But nonetheless, it was definitely watchable, but it wasn't anything to speak of. Okay, the Divas match. AJ defending against Natalya, Brie Bella, and Naomi. Wasn't a bad match. I was really impressed considering what I'm used to seeing from a year and a half ago. This was pretty good. In technicality, I think Brie Bella should have won this match just because she had Naomi's shoulders pinned for a 3 count to the mat when she got slammed by Natalya, who also slammed Naomi and then slammed Brie Bella on top of Natalya. That's my only gripe. But the match wasn't that bad. It was enjoyable. AJ wins, but that's the right thing to do, especially what they're doing with her. So that was good. We're going to go on and go to the next segment, which was RVD versus Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. This match wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I was expecting more, I guess, with this, being it's Alberto Del Rio and RVD. You have a pretty decent set of guys in there that could put on a good match. They both know what they're doing. So I guess I was expecting for more than what I got. Of course, the match ends. Everyone should know by now, you have Del Rio with the armbar on RVD. RVD gets to the rope. Del Rio doesn't want to let go. RVD gets the upper hand when Del Rio tries to use a chair. Carter Rodriguez, the announcer for RVD, interferes with that, and RVD eventually hits the Van Terminator, which is cool. It was a good nostalgic moment, but I still think the match could have been better than it was, considering who was in the ring. It was a good match. It's just it could have been so much more than what it was, and I also wish they would have given it some more time and could have had a decisive outcome and not something where it was just a DQ. I mean, it's a pay-per-view. I want to see a pinfall or submission victory. I don't want to see no disqualifications. That's for free TV. Viz Fandango, not even a championship match. I don't care. I don't like Fandango from what I've seen of him. I think it's stupid. Okay, he looks like a freaking joke. His gimmick is cool, but he looks like a joke. The Miz is a joke as a face. They should make him heel again and stop this fucking ludicrous farce that's going on with him trying to be pushed as a face when nobody apparently gives a damn. Make him a heel. Okay, CM Punk, Curtis Axel. This match was decent. Considering, Curtis Axel had a match at the beginning of the night here pretty much, and now he's facing Punk, and Punk's supposed to be the veteran. This guy's like a newcomer. I don't know why Punk was getting kind of walked over, but Punk eventually pins him. Then he gets on Heyman for a little while. Then Ryback comes out and spears him through a table. This is sending this whole thing in a different direction, which is good for Punk. Heyman, draws a lot of heat, and that's good for Ryback, considering he's so green on the mic, and he's really not anything fantastic at this moment. This will really help him, I think. As long as they don't kind of push Curtis Axel to the back burner, because, you know, if you have him with Heyman, you're really trying to give him a push. So don't forget about him while you're trying to push Ryback, is all I'm saying here, you know. You still have a future star there if you build it right, WWE, so just, yeah. And the only bad thing that could really happen here out of anything is the fact, other than Curtis Axel getting forgotten, is Ryback getting buried by Punk, because Punk's after Heyman. Eventually Ryback has to lose. I hope they can find a good way to work around this. You know, I don't know. Have, you know, Punk win a match on DQ or something on TLC or something. You have Punk just decimate Ryback with these weapons, so it doesn't look like it's like this superhuman feat, because Ryback's like 3 times his size and shit. And then have him go after Heyman then or something. But Ryback can't lose legitimately like in a regular match or something, because he needs some push, you know. And at least if he gets beat down with weapons, I mean, it's one thing, you know. But to have him lose straight up would be stupid. So if they're gonna do this, that's the way they should do it. Having him lose straight up is just stupid, because inevitably, like I said, Punk has to win, so Ryback has to lose. And if they're gonna do anything, that would probably be the smartest thing. You know, we got Punk here who got pinned by Heyman in the match. Granted, it was because of Ryback. You know, he's going to get his revenge. And I hope WWE does something of some kind just to make sure that Ryback does not get buried from this situation. Worse than he already is buried, because he's pretty far down the card as far as I can tell. From what I've been reading, he's been having a horrible run in WWE. So we're going to have to wait and see where that goes, though. We're going to go on to the next segment now, which was the United States Championship match, which was Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose retains. Dolph Ziggler's jobbing out for Dean Ambrose, a former World Heavyweight Champion, going back down to a mid-card status wrestler to wrestle him just to lose. He must be in a pile of shit with the company right now. I mean, I don't go to spoiler sites. That's just my assumption. But regardless, it was a good match. But it was short. I mean, this could have been... Jon Moxley is a great wrestler. I'm sorry, Dean Ambrose. He's a great wrestler. I keep still thinking of his indie career. Dolph Ziggler is a great wrestler. They're both great wrestlers. They could have put on a really great match, way better than it was, if they would have been given the time to go the distance. And I wish they would have, because this really could have been a lot better than it was. And it really was a good match, but it could have been way better. But I really can't complain about it. It was enjoyable. So let's go on to the next segment, which is the Tag Team Championship match, which you had the primetime players win before the show, in the pre-show, in that tag team tournament thing to face the champions, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Now you knew, because the primetime players won the pre-show match to be able to come to the number 1 contenders for the tag team titles, you knew them wrestling that night, they weren't going to win. But the match was still enjoyable. It was short. Once again, it could have had some more time on it, but it didn't. But it was still a good match, so I'm not going to complain. The tag team champions retain, which is good. They're with this whole evil corporation, or whatever they're calling themselves. So having more belts with that stable is good. It makes it look stronger. So I think they made the right decision here, and it was a good match. So let's go on to the next segment. All right, and the final match of the card, the WWE Championship match, Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan. Once again, good match. This one actually got time. So this one actually went a little bit better than the other matches, just given the fact that it had more time. There was a lot of good stuff in here. Daniel Bryan gets the win with that high knee to the face, but the ref pulled a fast count, so it was kind of sketchy. And I was waiting for Triple H or somebody to come out and do something, but nothing happened. You know, I'm just basically waiting for the, you know, pay-per-view to be over to be sure that he's actually the champion the way it was looking. And they ended the show with him champion. I couldn't believe it. Now, I was expecting, you know, this whole feud to drag out before he won the belt to at least anywhere from Survivor Series to WrestleMania. I mean, I was thinking he could win the Rumble and then go to Mania. You know, they didn't do that. They pulled a curveball and gave him the belt, and nothing happened afterwards, which is funny. So there was no Money in the Bank cash in. Triple H didn't come out. I knew something was going to happen on Raw. It had to, for the way this ended, you know, which I actually think what they did on Raw was a good idea to compensate for what they did at the pay-per-view, because I truly think Bryan should have lost, but won technically via disqualification because of outside interference or something, but still lost the match because he didn't win the title, or do something like that. Even though I hate outside interference with a passion, especially at pay-per-views, I just didn't want to see him win here. You know, once again, to me, it was still too soon. You know, they really need to stretch this out because they're just starting the story. But let's go ahead and grade the show, and then I'll get on with Raw, because then they continue the story, which they make a really good continuation of, in my opinion. But for this show, I'm going to go ahead and give the show a C. It really wasn't a great show, but it was a good show. There was a couple of good matches that I really enjoyed. They just didn't go a very long distance of time. The last match went the distance. It was a good match. Overall, it wasn't a bad show. It's just the stupid match with Fandango and The Miz was just stupid. There wasn't even a title match. Why was it even there? They didn't book any story for the IC match going into that match, which was stupid. You know, there was just small things. The Triple H promo was just wasted airtime. I'm giving the pay-per-view a C. Maybe if the first promo of the night, that Triple H segment would have been cut and some of the matches would have gotten more time, I would have gave it like a B-. But the grade will stand as it is. But leave your thoughts down below what you guys thought of the pay-per-view, or leave a video response. Now we're going to go ahead and get on with Raw that just happened on Monday. The show takes off with how it should have, which is Daniel Bryan, because he is the new WWE champion. He comes out, you know, to cut a promo and whatnot. He's a champion. Yes, 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 and all this. And you knew that this wasn't going to last because of the fast count. So you have Triple H come out, and then he calls out Scott Armstrong, the referee of the match. He says they were in on it or something, and Daniel Bryan gets stripped of the belt. This was the right thing to do. Then Randy Orton comes out, and he lays out Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan doesn't want to cough up the belt, so he comes out, lays him out. That's it. End of the segment. Done well. He's not the champion, which is fine. You know, they're going to give him the belt eventually anyways. It just gets more people behind him. Think about it. He's held the belt 2 times in 1 month for like a total of a whole month run, and that's it. You know, he got what he finally wanted twice, well, 3 times technically, but twice in this storyline, and got it taken away from him. So this just has more people behind him. You know, it's just adding more fuel to the fire. It's giving, you know, Randy Orton and Triple H and everyone else over there all this heat, and it's getting more people behind Bryan, which is great. Now, in the next segment, there's a little bit of tension between the faction with Triple H, you know, Stephanie, Orton, Vince, and all this, the corporation, or whatever they're calling themselves. Randy Orton wants the belt, and Triple H are going to give it to him. Randy Orton's flaming pissed, and, you know, and Stephanie's like, you know, we want, you know, the Randy Orton who, you know, handcuffed me to the ropes and kissed me and, you know, beat my husband down and blah, 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 blah. You know, we want that Randy Orton, and you're not that Randy Orton. You know, and if they want to bring him back to that point, that's great, because that's the best time in his career, is when he was either the Legend Killer or when he was just going around taking people out with the punt to the head. You know, he was nasty. You know, he was a great heel. You know, and heck, that's what I want from him. So I mean, hell, that's great. You know, Stephanie just antagonizing him, the fact that they want him to be that person, which is the Randy Orton that I want. So as long as he's not, you know, completely burying everything under him, that's the exact Randy Orton that I want. It's perfect. I mean, Randy Orton as a face is garbage. Randy Orton as a heel is good. It's really, really good. He's a way better heel than he is a face. Okay, so the next segment is Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. This is not a title match, though. Repeat from the pay-per-view. Because it's not a title match, I'm not going to complain about it being a repeat. The match was good, you know. I actually think that it might have been a little bit better than the match they had at the pay-per-view. I mean, actually, that's just my personal opinion. Ziggler wins, which is going to continue this, I guess, feud between them. Now, it would have been a lot nicer if they would have given Dean Ambrose someone else to feud with, in my opinion, instead of setting Dolph Ziggler on this rematch. I mean, granted, he lost to a mid-carder. He has to redeem himself, I guess, and win the IC Championship, which is just going to do nothing for Dean Ambrose but kind of bury him a little bit back down. It's not going to do anything for Ziggler. He's already held the World Heavyweight Championship. He doesn't need to hold any more mid-card titles, okay? You put him up there, keep him up there. When you're trying to build somebody, you use guys that you don't give 2 flying shits about at all. That's why you have jobbers to do jobs. You don't use one guy you're establishing or trying to establish and put him up against someone else that you're establishing or trying to establish. That is a no-no. You understand, Vince? Okay, so the next segment, Triple H, Stephanie, and Brad Maddox with Big Show. Is going to be Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns match that Triple H has announced for the main event, which is good. So this segment actually had some meaning to it. Good job, Triple H. Good job. If you're the one actually booking all this shit, good job. It's also told that Big Show has to stay in the back all night, which we all know that's not gonna fucking happen. But, okay, sure. That's... you say so. Sure. This whole thing that they're playing off of with Big Show being broke and all this, I think is good because they're not turning him heel. Even though if they did, it really wouldn't bother me. I like him as a heel or a face better as a heel. So I mean, I'd like him to be heel, but to me it really doesn't matter. But at least they're doing something with him, and they're not just putting him on the shelf. I mean, he is a good act when you think about it. So might as well take advantage of that. So I'm glad that at least they're giving him something to do, and he's not just being used for nothing, which is good. Now, next segment, we get a video package playback from the pay-per-view with the whole thing with Axel and Heyman and Punk and Ryback and all that, just getting a replay from what happened, which is good because there is going to be a segment later on in the show about it, so I guess that's good. I thought they would have waited to do this until they actually got to that segment, but they didn't. The next was a match between Fandango versus R-Truth. Now, I guess they're having this match because of a dance-off that R-Truth won. Or whatever. Okay. I guess. I mean, I guess that's Fandango for you, and we all know R-Truth likes to, what's up, or whatever, so I guess, whatever. It works. I guess from that degree it's entertaining, at least. It is entertaining. But the match was just really short. It wasn't god-awful. It was okay. But it was just really short. Fandango wins. I mean... oh, man. Next segment. I mean, if the whole feud consisted of dancing, just to say this real quick, then I don't know what to say. But the next segment had Dusty Rhodes come out, and he's cutting a promo about family and stuff like this. And Stephanie's the one that called him out on Twitter. She comes out and basically gives him an ultimatum. You have to pick which son you want to have a job. And he's not going to pick. Long story short, the Shield comes out, and then, okay, if you don't make one of those decisions, we're going to give you this decision. Either you're going to get down or get beat down by the Shield, and then the Big Show comes out, or you're going to get beat down by the Big Show. He was supposed to stay in the back, but he was called out, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't want to make a decision. He's like, fuck that. Stephanie makes it for him. Big Show punches him and kind of grabs him just to hit the ground. He's an old dude. He's probably all banged up. He just kind of lays him down. Big Show's all crying, upset, just putting on this big act, which he does a great job as far as I'm concerned. That was a really good act he put on. I actually liked the segment. I mean, they brought back Dusty Rhodes, which is fucking awesome. They brought back the American Dream. So for this segment, I don't know, like, this whole thing is just, in my opinion, just geared towards a Cody Rhodes face turn, and it's pretty much inevitable at this point, especially with his dad coming back and doing something like this. He's really going to want his, revenge and redemption and all this stuff for what happened. So when he does come back, it will be as a face, and I think it's going to be the starting point to the uprising of his career instead of really being just stuck, down here the whole time. Not only is he coming back, to fight, the bad guys, he's also coming back to defend his dad because of what happened to his dad, with this group of bad guys. So this really could go far, and he really could have an uprising here. And he really, really needs it because he is part of the future. He is going to be a future main eventer, and you need to start giving him that push and stop delaying it and just get over with it. He's already got the charisma. He's already got the character. Give him the push. Give him the face turn. Give him the push. My guess is sometime by 2014, and some point in that year, he will be the WWE champion or the World Heavyweight champion, whatever show he's on, but he will be the champion. And then the next segment, they ended it with the medics taking Dusty Rhodes into the ambulance, and they drive him off. Big Show gets in, and it was good. I said I like the way they're going with this. We're going to go on and get on to the next segment, though. AJ and Natalya are ringside for a 3-on-3 Divas match. Brie Bella picks up the win for her team. The match wasn't bad. The commentary made it more interesting, but the match itself wasn't bad. I think they did a decent job, especially from what they were doing a year and a half ago. It definitely has gotten better. It has. There was nothing to speak of, but it was definitely better than times past where it's been. And it looks like Natalia's going to get the next push with AJ. Maybe she'll get the chance to win the Divas Championship and be a dominant force to be reckoned with, just like AJ is right now. So we'll have to see what happens there, but man, they're doing a good job. It looks like they're setting something up. Brie Bella might get a championship match. I guess it was the point of the 3-on-3 tag match. Granted it's a 3-on-3 tag match, but Brie still got the pin, which does something for her, so maybe she'll get a title shot in the future. I don't think she's that good in the ring, but she's pretty good on the mic, I guess. So I think she'd be an interesting champion. So, as long as there's a good story being told, it's not always about everything in the ring. And that's the one thing that always pissed me off about the Divas, is that it's not so much just the wrestling in the ring, it's the fact that there was never anything booked for them, so the matches were for nothing. If at least there was some build for them, and there's a reason for them to happen, even if the matches weren't that great, at least they meant something, so I would give a damn about what they were doing with the Divas. And now they're actually doing stuff with the Divas, which is good. That's a huge improvement, WWE. Good job. After this, they cut back to when the Big Show knocked out Dusty Rhodes in a video package, which is good. Granted, we've already seen it, but if you were just, watching the show or you missed that, you were in the bathroom or something, to rewind your DVR and check it out. So that's good. Okay, next match is Damien Sandow, who is the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, versus Rob Van Dam. They showed a playback of when he won, when he screwed Rhodes. Rhodes almost had it, and he threw Rhodes off the ladder, went up and got the briefcase. And this is a typical Money in the Bank winner match, just consistently jobbing out. It's probably what he's been doing. I haven't seen anything in a long time, but that's probably what's happening. RVD won. It was short, maybe 5 minutes if that, but it was a good match. It was okay. But he's once again, I've bitched about this before. I've griped about this many times. The Money in the Bank briefcase holder is just getting buried before they even get to the championship, and then them having it doesn't even look viable at all. Now after this, it is announced that The Miz is his hometown. He wanted to be in a big match, and he wanted a match with Orton, so he's got his match with Orton, and the match is going to be next. Now, of course, next means after the next promo in WWE's terms. There was a promo with backstage with Triple H and Scott Armstrong. Basically, Triple H tells him that, okay, I'm going to give you a nice severance package, so yeah, you're fired. But I'm going to take care of you. Now, I think that there's some kind of screwy shit going on here. Obviously, he's not going to get let go unless they're playing it off like that and he really is leaving, but I doubt it. Triple H probably paid him off in the storyline or did something to influence him to do what happened at the pay-per-view so he could screw Bryan over. Maybe that's something that they could do with this. I highly doubt he's actually leaving, but he might be. If he is, bye-bye, Scott Armstrong. It was nice seeing you, I guess, but this could just be part of a story, which is probably what it is. It's probably just an angle. Whenever they do something like this on TV, it's always an angle. So my guess is that Triple H told him to do what he did at the pay-per-view or something, and this is just a way to play things off. For the time being, at least. I don't know. All I know is I've seen Triple H like a million times tonight, and that's enough for Triple H. But we're going to go on to the next segment, which is Randy Orton versus The Miz. The match didn't even start. Miz's parents were at ringside, and Miz's face, people are cheering him, and then he's, saying hi to his parents. They're in Cleveland, his hometown. And Randy Orton just assaults him. The match got in the ring for maybe all of like a minute or two, and then it ended up back outside the ring where it ended up being a double disqualification, and Randy Orton just took Miz out. Miz was kind of giving it to him, but he got taken out at the start, so you knew Randy Orton would get the upper hand, and Randy Orton just decimated him, just completely buried him. If he wasn't buried before, he was definitely buried now. But on the flip side of this whole thing, even though The Miz got buried, we got to see the other side of Randy Orton a little bit finally, which is good. With Triple H and Stephanie won, he's kind of building upon that now. That really clicked into his head, which is good. But this did nothing for The Miz. It's his hometown. We knew he was going to lose, but, you can't help but kind of feel bad for the guy. Maybe he's not great, but at least he's entertaining on the mic. And he's not a great wrestler. He's not a horrible wrestler. He's been WWE champion. And it's just amazing that he's back down to this level of doing things like this. They really have nothing for him. And if they have nothing for him, they need to let him go. I mean, I think it's stupid he's face to begin with. He should be heel. He's a horrible face. I think the only reason he got popped is because he was in Cleveland. You know, he's a face that people will pop him, but he plays a horrible face. He's such a better heel than he is a face. You know, but it's just apparent that they couldn't push him as a heel. They didn't believe in him as a heel, and they don't believe in him as a face. So why bother keeping him on the roster? I don't know. It baffles me a lot. Moving on. Okay, so it's announced TLC, next pay-per-view. Great. We know nothing about it yet. I mean, I can name a couple of things, but I'm not going to do that right now. I might do it at the end of the video. But at least they did announce the pay-per-view, which is good. Moving on to the next thing, Ryback comes out with Paul Heyman. And we find out that apparently Paul Heyman had nothing to do with Ryback coming out interfering, and Ryback is his savior, and he kisses Ryback and all this garbage, and you get to hear how green Ryback is on the mic. You know, Curtis Axel comes out and pulls out Paul Heyman in a wheelchair and just kind of walks off. I don't like where that's going. They're kind of pushing him off to the side for this whole thing. But at least we got an quote-unquote explanation of the truth, I guess is what we're going to call it, of the situation. CM Punk doesn't come out. Okay, cool. Maybe he'll come out next week and he'll get beat down or something by Ryback, adding fuel to the fire to set up their match at TLC, which is more than likely going to happen. Going to talk about that in this review, but I just mentioned it there, so whatever. But it is continuing this storyline. I just hope that they do the right thing and not the wrong thing. I spoke about it in my Night of Champions video, and set up a way, because it's TLC. If you have Punk win, there's weapons. He's faster. He's got weapons. He takes him out with weapons. I mean, him beating Ryback is almost unbuyable in a regular match. So at least it won't look really bad if Ryback loses to Punk in this situation and then gets a hold of Heyman. I'm just saying, because inevitably Punk has to beat Ryback to get to Heyman. So, I mean, I hope they do something that doesn't, bury Ryback more than he's already buried. Moving on, we get a video package for Los Matadores. Once again, I don't go to spoiler sites, so I really don't know, and I haven't seen anything in FCW in a while. I'm going to watch it next week. They had Ole Ole in the package, which is El Generico's thing, so I'm assuming this is El Generico in a tag team with somebody, because they're Los Matadores. I assume one of them is El Generico, but can't wait to see that, another tag team, which is good, just more to add to the division. And El Generico is he's a phenomenal talent. He really is a great wrestler, so he would do good for the division. But moving on here, we get a number one contenders match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. We get tons of fun versus the Real Americans versus the Usos in an elimination match. Tons of Fun gets eliminated first, and then the Usos inevitably win this match. This was a great match. This is a really good match. All three teams did a great freaking job. These are three real tag teams, and they have a lot of tag teams now, which this is freaking great. So now we have a match for Night of Champions. The match wasn't announced for Night of Champions yet, but we more likely will get that at Night of Champions. They'll announce it eventually. That's good, and this was just a great match, and they're doing something with the titles. They're not just meaningless right now, which is great. I mean, it's freaking amazing. And the match got time. I mean, it wasn't extremely long, but it wasn't 5 minutes. I mean, this was a pretty decent length match for a Raw match. So not only was it good, it got time, and a team that the whole crowd was going for in the match went over. In fact, this crowd was alive in this show. It wasn't as alive as the Canadian crowd when they were in Canada, but I tell you something, this crowd really made this show just a little bit, especially in this match. They were chanting all kinds of shit. The crowd was very, very intriguing tonight. Some of the stuff had nothing to do with the matches. They were just chanting stuff for the hell of it, but it was really, really entertaining for what they were doing. I mean, to me, like, the crowd makes a lot of the show. It makes it entertaining when there's no crowd or it's silent. It's just like, it's boring because it takes away from the feeling of the show and the emphasis and all that, just the reaction and when the guys hit the mat and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, like it's really, really a part of the show. I guess WWE's finally doing a little bit more to actually get people to give a shit about the product, because they're doing something that's better and it's getting more people entertained by what they're seeing. They're enjoying it instead of being bored to death with the same old shit all the time. So the next segment we find out Miz and Dusty are okay, which is good. And the next segment we get a video package of the Wyatt family, which is entertaining. I like Brody Lee. WWE is still too faction heavy, but at least we're doing stuff with the factions that are improvements and putting people over and getting new guys in, so won't gripe too much about that. I want to see more of them. I haven't seen much of them yet, but they got Brody Lee, and the video package looked interesting. And I seen, what is it, Gray Wyatt or whatever his name is. I seen him wrestle on Monday. He wasn't bad. You know, the gimmicks are entertaining and everything, so I like to see where it goes. Next we get the Roman Reigns Bryan match. Shields at ringside. Randy Orton comes out before the match as well. The match went the distance. I mean, it was good. Bryan wins via DQ outside interference. They tear Bryan apart. Randy Orton tries to break Daniel Bryan's neck like he did to The Miz in their match, because he did the same thing to The Miz. I forgot to say that earlier. And then most of the WWE locker room just jetted out and saved Daniel Bryan. They're all behind Daniel Bryan and this and that. Just they picked him up and they're holding him on their shoulders and all this, and that's how it ended. It was good. I enjoyed it. Shit, you got the locker room behind him, you got the fans behind him. I mean, this shit is fucking great. But let's go ahead and grade the show. We got the crowd behind Bryan, we got the wrestlers behind Bryan. This is fucking great. But let's go ahead and end this review and grade the show. This show left me hanging on a lot of things, but I still enjoyed the show. Now, I've only seen the last Raw, Night of Champions, and the Raw that I just seen now. That's all I've seen from WWE thus far in the last year and a half. So I might be being a little bit generous in the grade. But before I grade it, I'm going to go through some things that irritated me about the show. Okay, they announced TLC, but we know nothing about TLC. Now, there was a lot of things that did happen that can portray what matches may happen at TLC, but they didn't announce any matches for TLC. Now, just my guesses here, more than likely there's going to be a rematch between Ziggler and Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship at TLC. There's probably going to be a three-way Divas match with Brie Bella and Natalya versus AJ, or in some form or another, AJ will be defending the title against one of those two. Brie got the pin on Raw, but, you know, Natalya and AJ kind of have this thing going. So, I mean, you know, when they were in commentary and all this and that. So, I mean, it really could go either way. But, I mean, the three-way would be nice. There also is the tag team champions possibly facing the Usos. You know, the Usos won that match on Raw. So, I mean, that puts them in title contention, I would assume. So, maybe they'll have a match with them at TLC. That could happen. One thing I want to mention real quick with The Miz, I mean, there's not going to be a match between Miz and Randy Orton at TLC, but they're almost starting a whole other feud right now when you think about it. They're taking Randy Orton and having him have a match with a guy who's not even involved with the current storyline. So they're bringing someone else into this when you think about it. So Randy Orton's almost having someone else to feud with, which is going to clusterfuck everything, because this inevitably is going to happen where Randy Orton's going to end up feuding with Miz. They might use Randy Orton to get Miz over. Who knows? That's a possibility. But Daniel Bryan's feuding with Randy Orton and the whole entire faction that he's in. So, I don't know. I just think that this was the wrong time to do something like this. It just insinuates something that just can't happen right now. It wouldn't make any sense. So, doing what they did and setting this feud up should have waited till a later period. I'm just saying. You know, there's probably going to be back to matches on TLC. There's probably going to be a match between Ryback and Punk. You know, something of that nature. You know, Punk still needs revenge on Heyman, so he's got to go through Ryback. So that match is probably going to happen. Okay, I think I've covered all the matches that could happen. So now I'm going to talk about something else that kind of bugged me about this show. You had Daniel Bryan stripped of the title. That's fine. It's part of the story. I loved it. I thought it was a great idea. Great. Who's in contention for the WWE Championship? It's vacant. There was nothing announced for any kind of series of matches or whatever was going to happen to determine what two guys were going to fight for that title. It wasn't given back to Orton. Orton wanted it, and he wasn't going to get it. Triple H was going to give it to him. Are they going to give it to him on the next Raw? I mean, that would suck. You know, what's up with the title? I mean, I would just like to know. I mean, what they should do, in my opinion, since Bryan stripped of the belt for this whole storyline, why don't they have like a King of the Ring thing or something? They could have announced that or had something happen to where they had a series of matches. Like, I think a King of the Ring would be great. And then have the final match at TLC. I think it'd be great. It wouldn't have to be a weapons match. It'll just be a regular match. It doesn't matter. You know, okay, yeah, it's TLC. Everything's tables, ladders, and chairs. But, I mean, they've done it before. You can just throw a regular match on there. And it could be good. You know, but once again, they have nothing announced about anything when it comes to the terms of the WWE Championship. The only thing we know about it is that it's vacant. That's all we know. With the exception of those things, I mean, I know I did a lot of griping in this video. The only really bad things, truly, that really happened on the show were the whole Miz thing, which was just ridiculous, setting up something that can't be set up right now. Just further burying the Miz at the current moment. And the match between RVD and your current Money in the Bank briefcase holder, Damian Sandow. I mean, it was a decent, short 5-minute match for what it was, but you're just burying your Money in the Bank briefcase winner. That's the only stuff I could really gripe about. You know, I've done my griping. You know, okay, yeah, I've griped a lot. But it was still a good show. It was a very entertaining show. I'm giving the show an A- grade. I think it was a really good show, minus a couple of things. And Triple H was on the show too much. Other than that, because everything was fluent and we got, you know, number one contenders for the tag titles, there was progression. You know, yeah, we didn't get things announced for the pay-per-view, which would have been nice, which I went through the list of things before that I said we might get, but at least we got something and it was entertaining. And I am satisfied. If they continue to put on shows like this, I will be happy. I just hope that by the time we get to the next Raw, and that Raw is over, we know a lot of things about TLC. Because we don't want to have it to where we learn everything at the last week. Okay, things that could happen, yes, but they don't announce what's actually going to happen until the last week. I want things to be announced by at least next Monday. I want something definitely announced about the damn WWE Championship, what the hell they're going to do with it. It's vacant. Do something. You know, there's a lot of things that need to be answered or that want to be answered. I'll probably, we will probably find out at least by the next Raw. I mean, that would be the right thing. I hope, you know, that they actually start talking about the WWE Championship, what they're going to do with it, and naming matches for TLC. That would be great. Great. But A- regardless. A- show. Leave your thoughts down below about this show. Make a video response. Do whatever you want. Look, people, I don't block anything. You know, I just ask that no one be disrespectful in what you say in your video response or your comments. Just everybody be polite. You know, I'm not dissing anyone else's opinions. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, and don't bash each other. Everyone is also entitled to their opinions. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. That's it. Hit the subscribe button if you like it. Thumb it up. Don't thumb it down. Thumb up. Peace.